equal chances, and the council comes together every year and unites and makes sure that that is also done. But last year with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, when you raised 1 crore, and so many young lives were touched, so many smiles were distributed, so much happiness was given to lives which were unfortunately just dealt a very short hand.
In GJPBC's endeavor to put together all concerted efforts, German Jewelry National Relief Foundation, GJNRF, was set up in the year 1999. Year on year, GJNRF is working towards providing relief to victims of calamity, war, and terror in every possible way, thereby serving society and making a huge difference in their lives with new commitments and promises.
Thank you so very much for today. It's a very special day for us. Praveen Bhai, thank you. That was a lovely speech. Russell, I don't know where you're sitting. Thank you very, very much. Mr. Kleber, thank you for your very kind words. Sen, who I've not actually met, but thank you very much. And of course, Sachin Jain. Thanks to you. Thanks to Biryani, who introduced us. I really, really like the name for today's evening, Jewelers of Hope. I think it's beautiful. You know, when we first started thinking about this dream of ours and how we were going to make it happen, we actually asked ourselves, what is poverty? And the answer we came up with after almost 6 months of debating and talking to people is that poverty is really an absence of hope. I think it was May 2012. We did 1 year of research and study where we traveled the length and the breadth of the country, met amazing people, really amazing people, studied. We went to Bangladesh, met Brack. I don't know if you've heard of them, Sir Faisal. For the first time in my life, I was really starstruck. I mean, I have the most amazing Dia Mirza here. And I mean, but just to be honest, I've never asked a film star for a photograph with them. But when I met Sir Faisal, I said, Sir, can I please have a photograph with you? Because that man has single-handedly, along with another gentleman whom you've heard of, Grameen Bank, transformed the indices of a whole nation. And from that visit came a huge inspiration to both Ronnie and me that really it can be done. People can be lifted out of poverty permanently. But I think being maybe a little foolish, maybe a little stupid, and many people did call us crazy. I remember this 4 years ago. Today they tell us it's the only way to do it. We told them that we talked about it to a lot of our friends, and we decided to create a model of development with a 360-degree approach, which means there is no silver bullet to removing poverty. There is no one thing. If you say, I'll do this one thing, I'll build this one toilet, or this water, or this education, or this nutrition, or this health, or this livelihood, or this agriculture, this one thing that will remove people from poverty, it won't happen. It won't happen. If you examine your own lives and that of your children, what would you give up? Would you give up their education? Would you give up health? A livelihood for yourselves? Water in your homes? Toilet in your home? You wouldn't give up anything. So we decided to create a very unique model, which is the 360-degree model of development. We call it the inside-out model of development. And we embarked on this journey 3 years ago from very, very small beginnings, where our community was only 39,000 people. Today, I'm very happy to tell you that it is just under 5 lakh people. We work in 2,000 villages. Thank you. 360 GPs. And as Gaurav said, we have 1,600 people, of which 1,300 are community volunteers. I don't know if you can see this lady over here in the white coat and the other one in the white coat. So we have 1,000 of them. We have another, about almost 500 agricultural volunteers, and we have 350 full-time professionals, 2 or 3 of which are on the table with us today. I'm very happy that they managed to come. The rest are all in the field. 90% of those 350, almost everybody, works at the grassroots level. The other thing we believe very deeply in is a collaborative approach. We work very deeply with the government. We work with 30 partners and execute over 70 different programs. And most important of all, the real partnership that we have is with our community. And what we're really working to do in the end, if you look at it, is rural empowerment. That's what we believe in. And we have a motto that says, Swa se bane des, Swades. Bruce, for that means that Swa is the I, but not the lower I, the higher I, the soul, if you like, Swa. It's a higher self. Se bane des, which means I make my country. I bring the change. I think we've heard that many, many times, and we also hope to do that. And today, with great gratitude, we're happy to receive what you're about to give us. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Could Ronnie and Zarina please take a seat, and then we can just have a little chat. Yes, we will, just in just a moment.
So I just want to say a few words, actually. And,
yes.
I think Zaina said most of it, but I, again, want to thank everyone for here. Praveen Bhai, thank you very much for your very kind words. Russell, for having us. De Beers, thank you for everything and your contribution. I know you're celebrating your 50th anniversary, but I remember a little over 36 years ago, when I was much, much younger, my first tryst came with the Gem and Jewelry Export Promotion Council, because I was invited to host a fashion show with, at that time, all the beautiful ladies. And it was my first overseas trip ever to Singapore. I'd never traveled abroad. And suddenly I was invited by Jeannie Navroji, who at that time was choreographing for the Gem and Jewelry Export Promotion Council. And it was a thrilling experience. So to come back and see the logo evolve since the last 36 years, it brings me back with a lot of nostalgic memories. And the last thing maybe I'd like to just share, and Zaina has spoken a lot about Swades, and I think everyone is here. We all discuss philanthropy in a very broad sense, and sometimes it does frustrate me that there is a perception that there isn't so much of it going around in India, and there's always a question mark as to why aren't we doing more. And I can tell you in the 6 to 9 months that we did and met people across India, there is an incredible amount of sweat equity and an incredible amount of people doing some great work. And if the United States contributes 2% of their GDP, and we are guilty of only contributing 0.2% of our GDP, I don't think we need to look down on that, because if you add the sweat equity, we cross that 2% of GDP. And I think most of the developing nations, when they do that, it's mostly for educational institutions and many others. Many of them, personally, from my point of view, may not even need some of those grants that actually go to them. So I think we need to be a very proud nation to the fact that there is a fair amount of incredible work that goes on here. And the last I would like to urge everyone here is that in India, as compared to in most other places, the challenge here is not about cutting a check. I think it needs manpower and the brain capital that this room represents and many of us represent. And I think it needs as much of your time. And even if you give 10% of your time and 0.01% of your wealth, it'll make an incredible difference, because the challenges for India to solve the problems are very unique. And I don't think today we have the mature enough foundations and NGOs at that scale to be able to take it there. And we need the brain power of corporate India to actually contribute in an intelligent manner, because there are lots of problems to be solved, and unless we're on the ground, we don't know how to solve them. And I think that's just my sort of appeal to everyone, that that's the next level of some sense of participation of sweat equity outside of their financial contribution. But again, thank you, German Jewelry and Export Promotion Council, for having us here and for this generous donation. Thank you.
Well, it's really interesting that 36 years ago, they were the first ones to take you out of the country, and today they're giving you something to keep you in country for longer, right? Just to work even deeper in the country. But to both of you, the question that I ask is, and there's something so interesting that you said, that when you were starting out, the quote I thought of, or the line that I thought of is, first they laugh at you, then they call you crazy, and then they follow you. Have you noticed that happening? Have you noticed in the last few years that the ones who thought that this dream was absolutely ludicrous are now on board and behind you?
Well, I think the main thing was how we wanted to do it. I think what really everyone laughed at us a lot and really did call us crazy, actually, are now saying this is the only way to do it, which is the 360-degree model. And I think that is actually, honestly, it's really hard. It's really tough. And it's a struggle. Almost every single day we have huge problems. But the main thing is we try and solve them. We overcome them in partnership with our community, in partnership with the government. And we have 30 fabulous partners, and we have an amazing team. So yeah, I do agree.
When was...
I just want to add to that. Zainab didn't mention one thing. You see, we come from media and entertainment, where most of the days everyone thinks we're mad and crazy.
Yeah.
So we're quite used to that thought process, where everyone's questioning, why are you doing what you're doing half the time?
And I think also, to add to Rani's point, is we're also really used to failing. I think in media, you fail spectacularly. When you take out a movie or a big TV show that the next day is an utter dud, the whole world knows about it, and the whole world is like waggling their fingers at you and saying, see, I told you this is not going to work. So we're used to it, and we're okay with it. We don't mind if we fail.
Trust me, I know about that. I've read a few of my own reviews which made me want to hide. But Rani, I mean, it's so interesting you say about entertainment and media, and we're all about emotion, about stirring emotion. Is there, and I know there'd be so many, but the first moment or some moment that happened which made you believe that you were on the right path, something that you saw, a child, an old person, anything that comes to mind?
You know, that's nice and storytelling-wise, anecdotally important, but it doesn't work that way. Life is not about that. But I think what happened to us was not really when we looked at scaling this up, but I would say 20 years back when we started our company, and I think we'd sort of decided that 10% of whatever we were doing, we would put aside, and that was very small beginnings. And I remember at our board meeting, one of our investors had just come in and he said, well, this is all good, but what about the years in which you're not going to make a profit? What are you going to do at that stage? And we said, we're entrepreneurs, we'll figure that out. So I think that the base was really the philosophy. I think it comes into the culture. It builds organizations and in culture. And I think the 20 years of that took us to the last 3.5 years of what we're doing today.
But if you want a story...
Oh yeah, I should have asked you for the
I can
story,
give
right?
you a
Not just the
story.
practical.
So that lady in the white coat, I'm going to tell you a story of one of them. They're called Swaraksha Mitras. The one I'm going to tell you about is not on the wall. I think it's outside though. Her name is Vidya Kule. About 6 years ago, we asked her to come and join one of our self-help groups. She joined one of the self-help groups. 3 years ago, she became a Swaraksha Mitra. And today, sorry, not today, because she just had to resign after a little while, but she became the Sarpanch of her village after becoming a widow. Sorry, I missed my whole point of my story is, her timeline is as follows. She became a part of our self-help group. She became a Swaraksha Mitra, which is meaning that she goes from door to door and actually saves lives. In the middle of this whole thing, she became a widow. And then she was elected Sarpanch of her village. So that's a story for you.
And there must be so many more like this, right? There must be so many more. Let's also call, now I think we should call Dia on stage, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, you have known her as an actress and a beauty queen, but I don't call her a beauty queen, I call her a power princess because she's harnessing all her power for social good now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the wonderful Dia Mirza.
So I have to tell you something. No, Dia, you tell. Okay, I'll tell you. So Dia just told me that her very first assignment, one of her earliest assignments when she was 17 years old, was for De Beers. So there you
Wow.
go. Yeah.
That was like 5 years ago, right? 6.
I love you, Gaurav.
We're old friends. I mean, while doing social good, Dia, more than Dia, actually, Dia's cook has done a lot of social good for me as well. We've been neighbors for a long time, and when I was young and kitchenless in Mumbai, her cook used to make lovely dosas for us. So I think this started a long time ago. I think that was your first emotion of seeing social good happening.
That was my first experience in social good.
And from there on, you decided to save tigers and, of course, do a lot more things.
Yes.
But you, of course, are an avid supporter, an ardent supporter of the efforts of the Swadesh Foundation. So tell us about how you've seen Ronnie and Zarina sort of passionately get involved in this over the last few years.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Swadesh, for yet again allowing me to come here and cheer for you, because I feel a great sense of pride every time I get the opportunity to. Growing up, there's always a sense of participation one would like to feel. I mean, your school encourages you, and then your college does. At home, I was encouraged, and I always felt a great sense of happiness every time I came back after doing something that I knew was making a difference in somebody's life. And I would often wonder, when does that stop? And then you grow older and you realize it stops when you become busy with yourself and expanding your own life ambitions and going on to doing the very many things that you want to do, the goals you want to achieve. And somewhere along that process of that participation and that fantastic feeling that one gets in participating with more people than just yourself starts disappearing. And it's very interesting how, despite great successes, there is a kind of an emptiness that looms. It just kind of takes over. And I think what Ronnie and Zarina are examples of are individuals who grew as individuals first, and then as an organization, but they never lost sight of that very important aspect of being and being contented individuals, and remembering that the only way they can be truly happy is if they're making a difference. And I know that has more to do with Zarina than it does with Ronnie. No.
Oops.
No. Okay, she will, of course. You're all heart, Zarina. And I know that without him, your heart would not beat. But, and you agree with me, right, Ronnie? Yeah. So, anyway, let's go back to the story. And when they first called me and told me about what they were doing with Swadesh, I was just blown away. I was so amazed at their intention. And I also knew somewhere within my heart that it was an intention that they would make possible. Because they just are those kind of people. They make everything that they set out to do happen. And it's been a remarkable 3.5 years of watching them grow from strength to strength, making great strides, making such a huge social impact. And I work a lot with corporates. I'm on the board of some organizations, and I know how difficult it is for NGOs in the country to convince corporations to invest in them. And a lot of corporates have agendas. So a lot of the CSR donations that are made, or the money spent through CSR, is always, everybody has like their own thing. We will do health, and we will do education, or we will do XYZ, but nobody really says, I'm going to support somebody who's doing everything. So I know what a big challenge it must be for them to convince people to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to back an effort that wants to take care of everything. And But there has been a great growth in attitudes of people, wonderful, wonderful changes. I think when CSR was first introduced, it was done sometimes grudgingly and sometimes because, people were getting a tax benefit. But it's amazing to see how wonderfully corporations have started reveling in the good work that they're doing. They're taking a great sense of pride in their participation. They're really, really proud about their accomplishments because, when you reach out and you make a difference and you start seeing results, it really puts a sense of goodness in you. And I think it's also transforming the way companies operate in India and the way people, individuals are even approaching their own lives. So it's wonderful times in India. There's a lot of work to be done. And I'm just so happy I'm sitting in a room full of people who are doing that work. And thank you, Zarina and Ronnie, for inspiring change because, it's a wonderful thing to hear great stories, but it's another thing to see people in action, see people doing the work. And I think the only legacy that all of us are always looking for is a great story, right, to leave behind. And I think that those stories are changing every day. They're becoming more about we and less about I.
Fantastic. And you are leaving 1 million stories behind and 1 million stories every 5 years. And that's something I think that should inspire and motivate everybody. And Ronnie, like you rightfully said, it's not just about giving money. It's also about giving time. It's sweat equity and being there. Dia.
One thing I quickly want to add,
Sure.
because they both spoke about their volunteer group, and that's something that I find is so remarkable, because there are people from cities, urban centers, and of course rural centers, who are part of Swades because they want to give, they want to share their skills. They're actually out there on the ground doing work because they believe that sharing their skills is going to impact change, and that's a huge thing. They could be busy in the city making money, doing other things, but they choose to be out there in rural India, creating sustainable solutions and sharing their skill sets, which is fantastic.
Truly collaborative at every level. Well, let's...
Gaurav, can I say one thing?
Yeah, sure, of course.
I want to really point out and commend one gentleman who's in this room. I just recently met your brother, sir. I haven't met you, Mahesh Bansali ji. I don't know where you're sitting, but I met your brother Ashok just 2 weeks ago. And the work you do, sir, you deserve every success, and we were so impressed. It is truly, truly magnificent. To your whole family, really wish you. We were really blown away. Congratulations.
Well, I'd like to invite on stage, Praveen Bhai, if we could have you back on stage, please. Mr. Bruce Cleaver, and of course, Mr. Shaunak Parekh, the convener, National Exhibition of the Council. Could I request you to please come up on stage? Ladies and gentlemen, a check of 50 lakhs for the Swades Foundation for the great work. A small drop in their large ocean, but we're grateful nonetheless. Thank you so much. Let's have a big round of applause, please, for Zarina, Ronnie, and Dia. Praveen Bhai, can I request you to please stay on stage for just a moment? Praveen Bhai, if I could just request you to stay on stage. Today Zarina just spoke about, and we... Praveen bhai, first I'd request you to say a few words.
They want me to do something. It's here. You want one here? Where's Ronnie? He said they think they're leaving, so he didn't. Are they calling him from us? It's actually you're not calling Ronnie. Okay, but what about Ronnie? Where's Ronnie? One second. Just call Ronnie.
We're getting him. See, we're getting him. We're getting him.
You want to interview him? No, he coming.
रुके राजा 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 हाँ भाई किसी का घूमते रहो किसी का घूमते रहो ओके साइड में एक घूम को बाहर
सबका रोल है हम सभी यहाँ पे प्रेजेंट है स्वदेश सेंटर क्या डन 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 हम सभी यहाँ पे प्रेजेंट है स्वदेश फाउंडेशन जैसे कौश हमने देखा आपकी बहुत ही अच्छा काम करे आप भी यहाँ पे प्रेजेंट है बहुत सारी बातें आपने की बट आप भी यहाँ इस मोमेंट पे कुछ कहना चाहेंगे क्या फील करती है
मैं बहुत खुश हूँ स्वदेश के लिए कि जेम एंड ज्वेलरी काउंसिल की ओर से उन्हें इतना अच्छा इतना दिलदार कंट्रीब्यूशन मिला है आई थिंक इट्स एविडेंस ऑफ द फैक्ट दैट they are doing extraordinary work, but it's also evidence of the fact that corporates are now willing to genuinely reach out and support and make sustainable change.
या अगर हम आपकी बात करते हैं
जी
आप हर एनजीओ में जुड़े रहते क्या इंस्पायर करते इस तरह की
किसी का अच्छा देखते हुए किसी के साथ अच्छा काम करते हुए जो खुशी महसूस होती है वो शायद ही किसी और काम में हो बहुत अच्छा लगता है स्वदेश एक ऐसा फाउंडेशन है जो पिछले 3.5 साल से मैं उनके साथ जुड़ी हूँ शुरुआत से ही और रॉनी और ज़रीना दोनों ने मिलकर ये फाउंडेशन शुरू किया और इतना बेहतरीन काम कर रहे हैं और आई थिंक एक पब्लिक पर्सनालिटी होकर अगर हम हमारा जो रीच है जितने लोगों तक हमारी बात पहुंच पाती है अगर उस प्लेटफॉर्म का हम सही इस्तेमाल नहीं करेंगे या उस प्लेटफॉर्म का फ़ायदा नहीं उठाएंगे कुछ अच्छी बात लोगों तक पहुंचाने के लिए तो मेरे लिए वो बहुत मायूसी की बात होगी कि मैं अगर वो ना कर पाऊँ तो फिर क्या फ़ायदा आई थिंक इट्स अ ब्लेसिंग टू बी एबल टू कम्युनिकेट एंड reach out to so many people and I'm just blessed that I get the opportunity to do it this way.
Right, they also in a couple of days, Olympics will begin. Any wishes for the Indian contingent and what would be your favorite sport that you will play?
I just want to wish the Indian contingent who is representing India at the Olympics in Rio all the very best. Congratulations. आपकी मेहनत, आपकी शिद्दत और आपका प्यार ही आपको उतनी दूर तक पहुंचाया है and I'm very sure कि you will put your best foot forward. So congratulations for making it to the Olympics and all the best.
last बॉलीवुड की एक्ट्रेस हैं काजोल का बर्थडे भी है तो कुछ कहना चाहेंगे
Of course, she's one of my favorites. A very, very, very happy birthday to you, Kajol. Keep inspiring and keep spreading your sunshine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
अली आया मैम